I don't actually really know what to expect from this, because Drogo, I feel like, is such a dark horse every time I cast him. I think I said the same yesterday when he cast him against whoever he played
Nico.
yesterday. Yeah, laser. Yes, exactly. I forgot for a moment. For some reason I had a Marnie in my mind, but I knew that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of a dark horse to me as to what he can come up with, and I think very good, and obviously showed that against the laser yesterday. But Serral is a whole different monster, so it's this is gonna be tough as Drogo goes straight out of his base with the first probe, as he is the red Protoss in the top right of Pillars of Gold.
Yep, and in the bottom left, it's his opponent playing for Team Hands. It is Serral.
Yeah, so ZvP, as we obviously see Drogo coming across, really wants to block this. That's okay, that's just my PC freezing up for a second. Slightly scary, but we're okay.
Yeah, just going for the early block. I felt like Drogo wasn't the kind of guy that left the Adept build or was a fan of it too early, but I think he maybe took a little bit of a break after Katowice. Like I actually didn't see too much of him on the ladder or anywhere really, so he might have taken a little bit of a break since there was also a break in terms of tournaments.
Yeah.
Specifically with the COVID-19 situation. And now that he came back, he also adapted his playstyle and he's mixing it up. I already saw him bringing back old builds against the laser yesterday. He went for the Roach, not the Robo opener with a Twilight and the Forge and the delayed +1 timing, which is a Drogo classic. Any build where you do not need to micro that can win games against good players is what Drogo loves to do. But obviously, always his favorite was to just go for these triple Oracle openers and DT drops, like the super butter standard builds. And yeah, so that's usually what I think Drogo does. Just very standard openings, and then sometimes he goes into the archives of old PvZ times and brings back one of those builds as well.
I feel like I do feel like Drogo was first kind of broke through to the StarCraft Pro scene as well, like with his PvZ, like way back when. And
yeah,
he was not afraid to be abusive with sentries, a lot of sentries, and really make the most of that. So
yeah, I actually, when he became good, that was after Lambo was already good, and he was pretty bad for the longest time. He was like a 6K player, and all of a sudden, like within 1 month, I think he was at a boot camp together with Lilbo for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And he just copied Lilbo, and all of a sudden, like this guy, out of absolutely nowhere, who would always be an absolute free one, just starts playing 2 builds. It's the 3-gate Sentry expand and 2 Mass Blink Stalkers and the 4-gate. Yeah, I would just keep losing to him, and so would every other Zerg as well. And even though he was still getting owned in the other 2 matchups, his PvZ was so extremely strong. And I think ever since then, that kind of stuck with him as his reputation. But I also think throughout the history, it was historically his best matchup for the longest time.
Yeah, I mean, he came off of that and then, qualified into like a WCS or whatever it was at that point. But then he also had that year where he had a really good run in like HomeStory Cup, and then he went to Aces Rock and he had a good run there, and he consistently had like top finishes. And yeah, he became the guy to watch, and I really did feel like it was his PvZ every single time. Like he just kept playing Zerg somehow. I remember it being kind of the meme at the time. Is first Oracle pops out this nice, a change of pace, right? To see suddenly a bit of Stargate opener compared to all those Twilights we had in the last series.
Now, I'm not sure if he actually avoided the Overlord. I don't think so. Overlords have pretty good vision. So yeah. Serral saw that and immediately starts up the Spore Crawlers. The one thing Serral does not know is that there's a 3rd gateway in Drogo's main base. This doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it at least opens up the opportunity for 2 rounds of Adept Warp-ins and then a move out with more than just 4 Adepts across the map.
Yep. Yeah, really allows you to get very aggressive. This Oracle took a beating though, gets 4 drones, yes, but 16 HP, so very vulnerable to further attacks, and makes it a bit tougher to get it to come back in again at some point.
Yeah. The second Oracle also going in now. finds the Sport Crawler slightly out of position, but only gets one additional drone. So I think the first Oracle for 4 drones is always good. Even though it did get kind of low, but the second one definitely didn't pay off. Now he has the first one back at home, so he can defend at the third base in case there's more lings showing up. Serral actually supply blocked right now, so we're seeing a mistake out of Serral. And he also took 2 extra gas. I think we're gonna see a little bit of a Queen March here.
Yeah, just getting all of his gases going, one on each base. Obviously makes it that little bit more difficult to scout as well, right? If you're Drogo and showing up on one base and you don't see 2 gases on it, you're like, can be a bit harder to read as he goes into the main with the oracles and starts the last Serral completely trying to fake this out. So yeah, trying to sell something, this being something that it really isn't, and well, in a moment these oracles will have to leave, but there it is. And then of course you could cancel this lair, or maybe yes.
Yeah, for sure he would cancel it. I think if this was any other player, Drogo would have realized that this was happening, or at least scouted for it either the moment he saw with the second oracle that there was a gas at the third base already. Like that gas was not supposed to be there ever, and like by that time. And also, if you just play a normal macro game, you don't take your second gas at the third base. That makes no sense because you're gonna be oversaturated first in the main and the natural. So that's usually where you would take those spaces. Now Drogo is one of these players that he actually came from Korea, and he said he had the response to this, and he actually tried to defend the third base because Koreans were doing this a little bit wrong. But that's his only option right now because he doesn't really have that much, so he's trying to force feed the ramp. He also does have the super battery available, but there's so much stuff for Serral here.
Yeah, super battery gonna try and save the day. Corrosive piles it down though, Serral, and that's obviously the weakness of the super battery. It is just a massive target. You know, it just paints itself and says, hey, you know, kill me. As the Queens will get rid of these oracles now that shield batteries are failing, and well, a few extra lings definitely somewhat needed just to kind of get in front of these Ravagers. There's an Immortal here as well. I think that's actually going to be enough shield batteries in the end. Wow.
Yeah. The shield batteries did great, and that wasn't even perfect. Like, if he didn't stack the shield batteries, that would have been a lot more one-sided, because both of these Crossobar selves killed 2 shield batteries at once.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprising hold there. I feel like, well, I was just not expecting this at all. As we do see now, this Immortal gets caught too. I mean, Serral trying to make the most of it, but it's just still not really enough.
No, this is a great defense by Drogo. I think this was so the reason he did this actually, when he came back from Korea, he said he can defend the Queen pool while also holding his third base, which was ridiculous. But it's because the Koreans always made the Sport Crawlers before the additional Queens and the Rocheborn, which we in Europe didn't do, and we also very often just went off 2 gas and a couple less drones than the Koreans. So it's a little bit harder to scout the Korean version, but it's a lot weaker. And this right now was basically the Korean version, and he invested a lot into delaying his attack, like keeping the Queens at home to deter the Oracle for a little bit longer, faking it with the lair. He also lost a couple of drones. And in the end, this is a pretty big map for the Queens to walk across the map. So, like, all those things combined ended up being making for this great defense by Drogo. I really would love seeing Drogo take the gases at his third base. I don't think he needs to be too afraid. Even though Serral is just making units, maybe he wants to knight us or something.
Yeah, I just can't believe the super battery got killed so quick, and then he still, you know, didn't quite work out as for Serral, as we do see. Moving on from that, there are the gases, so now Drogo feeling a little bit more comfortable. Serral is just going to try and somewhat tech up, but, you know, you've just finished your lair to start. You know, roach speed, your +1 missiles just started. I mean, look at the work account here. It's 47 drones to 63 probes. Drogo is taking a 4th base. Does need to be careful not to be too greedy, because it is, you know, a 15 worker advantage he's playing with.
Yeah, so Drogo doesn't know right now, but he has obviously no business of moving out right now. Serral is going for one of the comebacks that I talked earlier. So if you're behind as Zerg, usually you either try to overgrown and completely just hope your opponent doesn't attack you, or you overmake units and hope to crash the attack. That's the 2 ways you can come back. If Drogo sees this, I really, really hope he just runs back. If he goes back, this game is over. If he engages, there is still a chance for Serral.
Yeah, he is going to be running back, so he's looking good to make the right choice. It's going to be a ling drop of Serral going into the main base to try to be annoying, as now Serral has roach speed and +1 finishes. He has no choice. He has to try and fight, but going into a defensive Drogo, he'll have warpins, who might just want to move away from the 4th and go to the 3rd, where at least there is a shield battery. a few different ways he can do this. As Serral's Ling Drop won't do anything at all. It is going to keep a few units out of the main army at least, and more units out of the Protoss army than it is keeping them from the Zerg. Although Drogo starts to fix that.
Yeah, he's actually trying to tech up to Storm and while getting a forward base. But I think he might be far enough ahead to do that. He actually did not micro against the crossbow, using some stalkers against it. Also lost some charge shots that were charging forward. So good start to the fight for Serral. It's still going to be hard to run past his choke. Nice solid counter attack, killing a couple of drones.
Yeah, to get through the choke initially is maybe the issue, right? As he's going to try and go down this ramp. He drops a couple of biles and he'll kind of let the Zealots run into him and pick a couple of those off. But time is ticking. We're about to hit +2 attack here on the Forge, so Drogo will have +2. And then he's also about to get Storm, and obviously that's a big addition to this as well.
Yeah, and there is another Zealot counterattack that just spotted that there was no gas at the... there was one gas missing at the natural of Serral, so he knows that it's committed now, Drogo, unless he didn't look at the Zealots, which honestly Protoss players usually don't, so...
Oh, well, a couple of corrosive bile cells still trying to fight this, but the storms are here. I mean, if storms hit these Ravagers, they are going to be quite literally ravaged. They're going to have basically nothing left on them, and then this entire army starts to fall apart from there. The Zealot counterattacks have been great as well, keeping Serral on a very low economy scenario. And you do see a Ravager trying to morph in, a couple of biles. Will land on the ramp, and Serral goes and splits up a little bit to try and fight this. I mean, gets past the biles here, Drogo. Now he's going to find one of his first storms, but then he also walks into his storms to take a bit of damage from that. And definitely not the prettiest fights that Drogo could be taking. Let's just leave it at that.
He also lost all the high tempers in the back against corrosive bites. So...
I mean, yeah. Okay, well, Drogo's doing some Drogo things. Pops the super battery, and I feel like it was a bit of a preemptive pop with the super battery. Maybe felt Serral was really going to commit then and there. As Serral will go in once again now. 3 Immortals. Another Storm does find its way onto this Roach Ravager force. I mean, at what point does Drogo maybe think about just adding in a Warp Prism to his army, right? Because maybe that makes him feel a bit safer about just microing this. It feels like he's a little afraid all the time here. It's,
yeah, I think he can also just keep doing probably what he's doing, and that's fine. Like, he sees there's no drones at the third base.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. It's always in theory good to do, but maybe he doesn't have enough hotkeys for it or something.
Alright, well, we're just going to see a couple more biles as this army has to back away a little bit. High Tempo still joining up together. Another corrosive bile coming in, +3 attack, blink continuing through, and just going to see extra probes coming out, some more roaches in production, a couple extra Ravagers are going to be morphing. I'm just going to see the Lings and Roaches going to go up the left-hand side as Jigsaw is just going to go in on the hatch. And a couple drones still going to... I mean, this Warp Prism in the bottom right being an MVP, like, we didn't really mention it because it just kept happening, and it's just like those Zealots are like a permanent feature of Pillars of Gold, right? It's just like, it's the creep wave that just shows up again and again. And Serral didn't defend it well enough. As, it's going to be GG's, and Serral is going to take game... Drogo is going to take game number 1 of this best of 5. Queen Walk. I was trying to find the words. Queen Walk. Did not quite work out. Stayed in it a long time after anyways, but was never going to quite find his way back properly. Into Eternal for our second map. As we have a nice... Okay. I was going to say, it felt like we were about to get the load screen freeze. Someone lagging out, but we survived it. We got in game. Just a minor delay. And the top right-hand side up a game. Our Red Protoss player from Raise Your Edge is PtitDrogo.
And in the bottom left, his opponent. He is surprisingly down 1-0 in the winner's match. It is Serral. And that's not the first time he's been down against the Protoss, surprisingly. He also lost, I believe, the first game against Hellraiser.
Yeah.
In the first group stage, and I know he also was dead in game 3. I did not see how that, like, I don't know exactly how he came back, but I've heard the other pro gamers talking, and I don't think Hellraiser played that perfectly, to say the least. So that could have been an upset as well, and maybe that's I mean, it's just a couple of games that we saw really, but I mean, losing to Hellraiser and Drogo a couple of games, it's already not what we expect from Serral.
That's the thing, right? We hold Serral up to such high standards where I think everyone, if anyone else, even Clem, for example, if Clem loses a game or two to Hellraiser and then a game or two to Drogo, everyone's like, well, he's still really good. We just know Serral is the best. Like, he was undefeated for so long, and, taking a map was the big thing. Nowadays, he definitely does lose a lot more maps here and maps there, right? And, it's definitely been just shakier all year long so far. He's just not quite had that streak of making, of not ever dropping anything and just crushing absolutely everyone you'd expect him to crush, and then, only dropping the maps versus the very best of guys. So, yeah, has been a little different there.
He actually, for quite some time already, has this in-game broadcast, where in-game, of course, in StarCraft, you have a broadcast option, and this broadcast is, I'm gonna stop playing like a simp. It's not a good fit for me.
Yeah.
And we see him recently doing a lot more all-ins. And the thing with all-ins is that no matter how good you execute them, if your opponent plays perfectly against them, they're gonna win. That's otherwise it would be imbalanced. And I mean, he's kind of he's dropping a lot of maps to doing some all-ins, specifically also in ZvZ, but also in the last game. I mean, if Drogo defends it perfectly, it's not up to him, it's not up to Serral to make that work. It's up to his opponents to make mistakes. So that was something that when he had this massive streak, he kind of just played mostly passive and reactive, and usually he would mix in maybe one in a best of 5 series, one all in a best of 5 series. Nowadays it feels like he almost does it more often, like 2 or 3 times maybe per 5 games.
Gotta say, I mentioned to all the baguettes in the chat, there has been a wave of baguettes. Is the only way I can really describe it. There's just a lot of them all over the place. For like the last 5 minutes, it's been. I thought they were just gonna be a spam on the GG, but they've literally not stopped. So, shout out to the baguettes in chat. All the Frenchies being as passionate as ever as soon as one of their players starts winning games. I guess so. Gaming can't cover this one because they're also in game over on Clem Stats. So.
Right. And I guess they also don't have they're still doing that stuff from home, right? And they're not in the studio, so they can't
I think
cover it too.
I feel like if they get like the other game, they have to like basically like share a Discord screen over, which they've been doing now and then. But yeah, it's less than ideal to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously kind of at least they've been able to make it work right though, right? Like they might not be able to be in the studio altogether, but at least they can still cast from home. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal that you don't cast 2 matches at the same time.
Yeah, it's just for stuff like this.
Yeah.
Oracle is just gonna sit here and die, and just gets 6 work because he should have had 7, but he did target the queen for a moment. So slight mistake. Oracle goes down. He has a second one that's gonna go for the natural expansion, and well, 2 queens already deal some damage to it here on the way in. You don't want to lose the second Oracle because you would like to keep that up for information because it's going to be your scouting in this game. So while you can kind of sack the first one, and that's a sacrifice you can choose, the second one makes 0 sense to ever give up. The Serral goes straight across and we'll get the Adepts on the 3rd base.
That was really important. That was like... Losing 9 drones, even if you kill an Oracle, is not good at all for you, especially on a map where you can't really capitalize on Oracles missing. It's like he actually started a Baning nest super early, and I was wondering if he was going to try this dark thing where you just link Bane flat. In that case, missing an Oracle actually would have been a big deal, but then it looked like he kind of second doubted himself. Maybe he didn't quite spot the Oracle early on, and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If it should have been a Roach run, but he cancelled and then got the Roach run, so I mean it looks a little bit shaky.
Oh, +1 attack will start when the Forge charge is coming in on the Twilight Council, and the Stalker will get the Overlord, which comes in for the full scout. So there are a couple of upgrades alongside the Robo and the Temple Archives, and maybe Drogo off the start of this, getting so much damage done, can turn this into a setup where you can get across the map and go for one of those big old Drogo pushes.
Yeah, and that's what it's looking like. He completely skipped the Immortal production. He's going into an early War Prism, and if you skip the Immortals, it also means that you will have the Gateways earlier, of course, because Immortals cost a lot of minerals. So if you want to punish, for example, greedy Hydra play, this is what I would suggest Protoss players to do, to go for these icon-based timings where they completely skip Immortals. And that's what it looks like to me right now.
Yep, it's just gonna be Ling Bane. Obviously, he's gonna build a few roaches though. So you just have the game continuing. Yeah, a few Lings just moving around from Serral, looking to see what's up, and an Archon drop to try and start something off on this right-hand side. We'll catch a few of the Lings, and there's our big extra warp in. Extra Archon, extra Zealots, 4th base. Looking to cancel this. I mean, again, a few roaches on the way up, but not a lot to start, and a lot of them are in the production tab still.
I mean, usually if you go Roach Bane and you have 75 drones, that's completely fine. But with the start that Serral has, he just couldn't afford taking a 4th base and making over 70 drones. And like right now, he just has no units.
Yeah, these couple Banes do like nothing, right? So an extra round of Zealots, and with the fact that there's 3 Archons already is just crazy. These Archons are going to have a monster time against these roaches. Stasis Ward goes off and catches a changeling. I got very confused there because that was a Zealot change, and I was like, what? But yes, the Zealots and the Archons continue through, and obviously all this time he's just got the 3rd base under attack. So the Archons are going to hold the roaches back. The Zealots are going to have a good time. They actually just go to target down the 3rd hatchery, actually, as he loses 1 Archon. Well, do you like him just killing the hatchery versus just going for what could have been a bunch of drones?
Yeah, I would much prefer the drones.
Yeah,
but I think he wins either way. Like, this was just not a smooth game from Serral. As I said before, it looked shaky losing that many drones, and still he went for the Spore Crawlers afterwards, maybe as a compensation because the Oracle died. I would have forgone completely the Spore Crawlers. Because there was only 1 Oracle. Wow, the hatchery is dying without a cancel.
Yeah,
and Serral can't be happy with this game.
Now the Prism's in the main base as well, warping in even more Zealots, and this is just, you don't recover from this really, because the Zealots are still out in front of the 3rd base, and the problem is you just don't have... Okay, well, Drogo should stop right-clicking on hatcheries, right? There's roaches here. Surely there's no way. Like, he's going like Zest mode on hatcheries at the moment. As the Archon, I mean, again, it's already enough that it maybe doesn't matter and make a difference, but if there's one way you lose it, is just giving all your Zealots and then not actually kill anything extra. But yeah, he's going to back off a little bit, I guess. I mean, these Zealots pulling back. No, there's 1 more hatchery you can right-click on, so he might stick around.
Mortal running in here as well. He also killed half an Evo chamber at the natural that was focused by Zealots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Definitely not so great at the last few moments, but then he just warps in 4 Archons, and that's going to be... Yeah, that's going to tell you just how many Zealots he's been building the last few moments. He nearly loses 1 as Serral tries to kill it, but even, 4 healthy Archons, because this would have been 5 in total otherwise. Okay, even 3 healthy Archons with another round of Zealots should continue to push this back and continue to deal very good damage here as... Yeah, it's just, there's not really much of an answer right now. The drones are all stacked up, taking splash damage from the Archon as well. GG is called. Drogo is 2-0 up against Serral.
If he obviously messes roaches on 66 drones, which he needed to do because his start was so bad, then he's dead if Drogo transitions. So there is a very hard decision to make. But the problem was really getting to this point, the way that he's been playing. I think the defense and stuff was fine, like he microed well and everything, he just didn't have the correct set of units. So if he cleans it up a little bit, I still have a lot of faith in my boy.
It's the early game, that's the problem, is in the bottom right side, our red Zerg player from ENCE Esports. This is Serral.
And in the bottom left, it's a blue Protoss player who's up 2-0. It's Drogo.
Can you believe it? If you're just tuning in, you're witnessing something you don't see very often. I actually don't know when I've seen Serral like down 0-2 as well. Like, that's just... I feel like I'm seeing all sorts of Serrals this year, which I've not seen before. I've never seen a Serral be reverse swept like Clem did before, did earlier this year. I don't think... Can you think of a time Serral was down 0-2 in anything in particular?
I remember there was a challenger where Drogo played against Serral in the run of 8.
Yeah, and he went up
He was up to... I'm not sure it was 2 or 2-1, but he was definitely up.
Yeah.
And then lost 3-2.
I do remember that, because that was the challenge where Drogo like really popped off. He was like, I've worked a lot, and it was so close. Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah. And then the series after I also got, I had 2-1 against Serral. And then he still just killed us. And then he won the final against Rainer 4-0, so...
Yeah.
So that might also just be what's gonna happen here, you know? Like
Yeah.
the last day at HomeStory Cup, he actually lost to a laser in the group stage and then still just completely owned the playoff bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it could just be an off day, you know, that stuff happens in StarCraft.
Yeah. It's funny because we actually always joked about it. It's just crazy that Serral never does have an off day, right? And then, you know, he finally has one and everyone's like, Serral can't win anything anymore. What's wrong? So, yeah, definitely could just be that. I mean, of course, the only scary thing is, right, if you get, you know, shut down by Drogo here, you go in, you know, you then go up against Zest. It's a complete change of pace because we just saw what Zest did against Reno, and it's a completely different series to what Drogo's been doing against Serral here. And then, you know, you've also got to go into that thinking, man, this guy just 3-0'd Reno. Like, you know, that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in right now. Drogo is actually going for the Twilight Council right now, so similar to what Zest does usually, although Zest would never do this without blocking a natural, which I think is... You shouldn't do this without blocking a natural. I think it's a lot easier to do if you just get... if the approach just goes for a normal scout, which is what happened here.
As the Overlord of Serral will get itself up into this high ground and sit there. Going to be the Dark Shrine, the choice from Drogo. So he's going to go DTs into Archon drop. And we go from there. Is there anything Drogo can do to maybe make this like super weird, faster, just like, you know, DTs and Archons? Like, is going like you know, faster charge or something and going like 6 gates still a thing, or is this only ever going to be DTs into like an Archon drop?
Yeah, I think this is just DTs into an Archon drop. He didn't even fake going for Glaives. If he was gonna fake that, he would have started second adept. So he even puts the gateways under the alert. So Sarah knows exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He actually still is making a spore in case of an Oracle, which is insane to me. Like, he is actually trying to play overly safe right now. Like, he lost so many drones to these pesky Oracles. He's making a Baneling Nest again. I'm not sure if his response to Glaives is Baneling Nest, but this is exactly the same as what happened last game. He made a Baneling Nest and cancelled and made a Roach one.
Some shakiness already as the Rotron sets up and extra spores going down, so obviously the extra spores are needed against the DTs. It's just he didn't really need the first one so early in the game against the Oracle that doesn't exist, so yeah, super safe from Serral. Gonna see the DTs warping in from Drogo. There's 3 of the 4, and number 4 will join just a few seconds later. Obviously, you can morph them into Archon safely here, and Drogo doesn't even try to move in with the DTs because he knows that he's just given up everything about this to show that it is DTs. So he is just thoroughly wanting to go for the Archon drop from the start and deal as much damage as he can with this.
Drogo actually hitting a big supply rock, and Serral as well. So both players slipping up a little bit on the macro, Serral, but Serral is really prepared for this here. He also has the Spore Crawlers, which are going to make it a little bit harder for Drogo to maneuver around. Spore Prism eating a bunch of shots here.
Yeah, just flew straight over that third base, which means Spore Crawler gets a lot of damage done. And I'm just going to be seeing a couple of extra Zealots warping in underneath this Prism and pushing through. So a couple of Zealots just to tank, give the Archons a little bit more freedom without taking shots, and the Zealots will peel to the side as the Archons go for drones. And you will get 3 of them there. Final shots looking good. Obviously, he has to be fairly careful with the Prism, already having taken some damage. You can't allow it to take too much more damage to the, you know, from the Queens or anything.
Yeah, I'm a big hater of these Zealot weapons, and Drogo does this sometimes. I think it's when he believes that the Zergscape Roach Warren that he does this, but that was not the case at all. So
yeah.
So now he basically had 2 less Zealots at home, which it would have been 2 adapts at home, right, for securing the third base. So now he's forced to get up to 8 gates, otherwise he would just float the shit down. So he's forced to go up to 8 gates on 2 base, and this is the first game where Serral is actually having the start that we're used to. You know, he shuts down the harass properly. He uses the units that he made defensively perfect in a perfect timing. Offensively, the moment he realizes his vulture spawn, I can use the Zerglings at the other side. Surrounds 2 adepts, gets a free pylon and cancels the nexus. So this is a good start this time for Serral.
As Drogo's Prism heads down to the bottom right side, Zealots from Drogo just going to sit up the ramp. The Lings from Serral will be back out into the center, and the Overseer flying up 3 from the main, and now sitting behind the natural with the Baneling Nest building on the third base, and We'll eventually just turn this into Ling Bane to complement the Ravager Roach. As here we go, the Ling is just going to show up and see what they can do.
Or not.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes I just pan the screen away and pretend they died and I missed it, rather than just, you know, they completely didn't do anything. Yeah, that was a sad moment.
Drogo actually did not morph these High Templars into icons, which makes me believe that he will want to go for a timing. So he's basically faking that he's gonna go for a storm. So he's basically gathering energy on these, and then he's gonna use them just for icons and either a timing or defensively maybe forcing his opponent because he thinks Storm might be greedy. But Serral is completely on top of the scouting as always and sees the fact that there is no Storm on the way if he paid attention.
Yep.
There's actually no way that Storm would have already been done after a DT drop like that, so...
Yeah, that's the only thing I was going to say. I was like, well, maybe he's like, you know, maybe if this obviously had just showed up and he went for the fastest Storm ever, but there's just no way. It's like, it's impossible. Protoss isn't that good. Believe it or not, guys. Like, I know we like to complain about Protoss sometimes, but it is not that good.
Yeah. Now Serral is going for the Spire, which is the standard response against the Spire, Ravager Ling Bane. He's also at 70 drones. Let's see, how many Banes does he have so far? Just the 16 that are on the way, but he's on creep with Roach Ravager against the army that does not have any force fields, so he can just kite forever, I feel like.
Yeah, he's gonna have these move these Zealots back against the Banes. Well, the Banes kind of run past the Archons clumped up, try and chase the Zealots down. I mean, if there was ever a way to deal with this, it was probably something like that. As now another round of Zealots comes in. There's already the drones having to pull through. Now the drones are pulling through the Archons. No, 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 no. 11 workers already down. Of course, it costs Drogo a lot of units, and that might just be the saving grace, but there was no need for Serral to take that much damage.
Yeah, but that was good enough, I think.
Yeah.
Good enough of a hold. He had a lot of drones to begin with, so he started with 77 drones. Was 12, and also the gold base now, which he can actually. Usually you can't defend it. If I was Drogo, I would have worked in a Stalker there or an Adept to go behind that, or preferably 2 Adepts. But they are actually going to be Mutas, so that's going to be shut down. If these Archons were at least full shield, the Mutas couldn't take them down. But I think actually with juggling, 5 Mutas should not be enough to beat this, but it would be close at least.
Yeah, Muta's going to pop out and jump straight on toward the Prism. Archon's doing good damage. Muta's taking a beating, and they have to fly off here already. A lot more Lings and Banes on the way, plus 2 melee starting from Serral. And, well, I mean, Drogo's fallen back to a setup where he was not really set up to play a longer game, right? And now he's got Mutas to deal with, and he isn't going to have a Blink upgrade. You know, he doesn't have that many Stalkers. He has some slow-moving Archons in a prison to transport them around. A prison that's also low HP, so you've got to be super careful about it. Now, it's only 5 meters, so it's not a big commitment. But then the ground army's coming in behind this, so you know it's getting a little tricky for Drogo, who's been sat on 50-ish workers for a long time now.
Yeah, and I mean, Serral doesn't simply need to. Usually, you need to think about getting to Hive and Broodlords, but I think it's apparent that Drogo just has to attack. He is getting the Infestation Pit now, which he feels like he's safe. He's almost maxed out. He sees the amount of Archons that points towards another timing attack of Drogo, which is what Drogo likes to do, of course, as we already saw in this series so far, in the last match. And I think this time it's not going to be as close as it was in the first fight around.
Yeah, there's so many more Banelings available, and yeah, I'm completely with you. This should not really be, in my eyes, I don't think this should really be close at all. The more Banes that get up before this fight happens as well, especially. I mean, he warps in a couple extra Archons and extra Zealots, but it's just more of the same. And if he waits too long here, Serral's only 30 seconds away from a +2 melee, make those Banes even scarier, and there's not really much going on, right? Serral's just sat in this concave, he's waiting. Drogo actually sends a lot of his Zealots around the top right to go for a base, but it just means these Archons get ran into by everything straight away, and the Prism can't juggle all them Archons, right? So Drogo's supply is dropping fast, and Serral's going to lose a 5th base, which against a 3-base Protoss, he doesn't really need. Obviously, he wants to protect the 4th, but the 5th, that can go down. That's a sacrifice he can afford.
Yeah, absolutely. He still has 10 Banelings left over, and he just has way more than Drogo. I think I'm expecting a GG here from Drogo any moment now.
Yep, not much left over as we see the Banes continue to crash in. The Zealots will get cleaned out, and Yeah, I mean, the center is long gone as well, if you even count this as an army now. I mean, 2 Stalkers and the Archon in a Prism, it's, and what 2 Stalkers going to achieve? Really nothing at all. He morphs in a few more Archons up on the rampart, and he morphs in 27 Bane lanes to Serral, and that alone would cause a lot of issues here, as you can just see our battery overcharge is already popped. Super battery is a little bit too soon to the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Your tone says it all. Is there's just not really a way to do anything here. Probes are going to get blown up by Banes. Drogo is just trying to see how long he can survive against Banes and Ravager Biles, and maybe trying to warm up his micro for game number 4 or something. I don't know. He warps some DTs, and that's also a bit of a hopeless look, as we do see Serral able to take a 3rd map, and we'll get on the scoreboard, so we keep this series alive in this best of 5. The 4th map going to be Death Aura for what could be a big one, as Serral is still down in the series 1-2. He's our blue Zerg. Needs to win 2 more to get out of this group in 1st place.
I'm in the bottom right? Or did you already do a match?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, it's Drogo.
I do this all the time as well when I'm like co-casting, and maybe like, you know, you just don't like quite pay attention because it is just the intros, right? And you're like, I am meant to do this guy, right? It's like you say it, and then I've done it once, and they're just like, yeah, you know, like I just said, I was like, I'm sorry, Zombie Grow.
Yeah, no, I was getting some water, so I just joined mid introductions.
All good as we get into this game number 4, and yeah, game number 4 here, Death Aura is the map, so a pretty fun one. I actually think I'm really going to enjoy watching a lot of games on this, because I think it's going to be fun to see these acceleration zones come into play a bit. I know I've asked you about this map in general. How about the acceleration zones as a feature themselves? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you think they're just daft, unnecessary?
No, I like them. I think they're... Well,
Yeah?
I like them because they're good for Zerg. The
Yeah.
slow zones were bad for Zerg, so... I prefer these for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're more fun than slow zones, because I feel like it feels better when things get buffed instead of nerfed, right? So when you run through a slow zone, it's always going to feel bad. If you run through a fast zone, everything runs faster. Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. It also looks fun if this is like, if you say speed zone, it looks super funny.
Yeah, there's some units which just look ridiculous when they run through. I remember like pretty sure the entire first day of the Team Liquid map contest, I actually just zoomed in on units on the speed zones. Basically, was the plan. So,
Nice.
so yeah, that's kind of what happens when you leave me with new stuff. As even the probe looks hilarious. I think the probe's actually one of the good ones, because it like just floats super quick. It's like,
Yeah, and you see the little blue thing behind it.
yeah, I know. It's like, and it's like, hit the NOS. Let's go.
Nitro activated.
Yeah. Stargate in the main from Drogo. So obviously the one game he's played Twilight is the one game he didn't win, and in fairness, Serral looked a bit shaky against the Oracles earlier, but he did play super safe against the potential Oracle even in the last game. I mean, that Spore Crawler, when he didn't even need it, was so soon, just in case somehow Drogo had fooled him.
Yeah, Drogo actually wrote to me that he accidentally forgot the golden wallet in the map pool, so he wanted to veto it, he just forgot it was still there.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes a bit more sense, right?
Yeah, I think he vetoed maybe probably the ice map instead.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is also very good for Zerg, so I don't think that's too much of a difference. This map is actually, I think, is gonna be the new 3 Oracle map, because there's so much dead airspace everywhere.
Yep.
Where the Oracles can park and then go into 2 different bases. It's really annoying. Even there, and behind the main base. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like literally everywhere. The Oracles can just stay safe from the queens and then chill there, and then you kind of need to split your queens, which means they're not at the front spreading creep. So it's a little bit like Kingscough. Not quite like Kingscough was extreme, because they could be everywhere behind the bases and can pop up from everywhere, but this is the next best thing, I feel like.
Well, you do see the first Oracle deflected, so that's a defense for once for Serral, as we've seen this first Oracle have a very good time previously, so it's already a better start, and there is indeed the 3rd Oracle on the way from Drogo. Did he go through Oracles in previous games? He didn't, right? It was just 2? Or am I being
it was 2 on the map where he sacked them, but I think on the Pillars of Gold it was also 3.
It was also 3 on Pillars of Gold, okay. you know, remembering back to map 1, that's a long time ago. As Serral momentarily started double lair. Again, just another the little things, right? Just, there's been a lot of them with starting structures and they're not going for it. Here we're going to see the Oracle buff coming into play, just going to activate all Oracle energy and a couple different revelations to kill off all these active tumors out the front and to the left-hand side. Even drops one more to finish up this one.
I'm pretty sure he can reveal 2 creep tumors at a time and not 1. Like,
yeah.
I think every Terran would have hit 2 at a time there, and I think Protoss players are not quite used to that yet.
Yeah, it was not the best position of the active one on the left side, right? Because he hit 2 on the right side, did he not? So.
Yeah, but then twice he just hit 1, so that was a little
bit shaky, but you know, you got to give these Protoss players time to figure it out. You know, they're probably when was the last time Protoss tried to clean creep up? You know, it's been a while.
Yeah, that is true. Also, this game is going for 5 minutes and 30 gas, so I'm expecting a similar timing to Eternal Empire. So again, he went for a Observer into a straight War Prism, no Immortals, and super early gases on the 3rd place. So he would 100% die against any sort of Queen pull, which I don't think Serral would ever do if he's down in a series after it already didn't work. So I like the mind games here from Drogo, and it might end up being a powerful push.
Yeah. It obviously just means you get powered up right away. You don't take any concern. And obviously, Serral's not doing anything super aggressive here. He goes straight to 6 gases himself. So not stopping or slowing down for anything. And also gets the 4th base up on the top side of the map. I don't think I've seen this taken as a 4th base yet. Does that work as a Zerg? Is it just an option?
Yeah, I take this as well because that airspace towards the main base otherwise gets too annoying.
Okay.
If there's a War Prism just parked there, it's super annoying.
And then obviously if you take the base to the left side as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And if you take this one, you also have potential of taking a base with 2 rich gases as a 5th.
Yeah, get that forward base down.
Yep.
Okay, as Lings get into the natural, and they're going to find 4 probes at the start of this. This forces a few warp-ins of Zealots. Obviously, Serral gets to see everything that's going on around here as well. As Drogo will start up a storm. So that was obviously also seen by Serral. So he gets a pretty good read that Drogo is just teching up, going actually late a game this time. Of course, may still end up somewhere else along the way. And Serral, in response to all of this, just drops down a Spire.
Yeah, I like it. I actually had a custom game with Hearthstone before this today, and I was so mad about this map that I just wanted to stop playing. I thought, I'm sorry, he had 3 War Prisms that were just in dead airspaces, and I had to leave like 50 supply at home, and I just left when I was maxed out because I was like, what the fuck is this? So, yeah, the thing that I learned from this game is that I'm probably gonna play Mira almost every single time I'm gonna play this map. And at least getting a Spire for a little bit earlier Corruptors or something, I think is almost necessary on this map. I also think what happened here in this game is that Drogo actually scouted the fact that it wasn't Hydras. He scouted a Roach Warren and he cancelled the War Prism and then started Immortal and Storm, because he feels more comfortable going into a later game against Ravager Bane rather than against Hydra Bane.
Yeah. Alright, well, as he starts up the blink, he does get in to see the Spire, so he has to have something of a respect move against that, as a couple of Corruptors will just start and they will just be for hunting Prisms, so... You talked about this when the Laser played yesterday as well, right, where he starts the Spire just earlier than you usually would. You can get a couple of Corruptors and then the Hive comes up, and then you just go into the Greater Spire for the Broodlords then eventually as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just going to be seeing still this defense setting up, and Overseer speeds in from Serral into the main base, and just making sure he knows exactly what's going on from Drogo, which I think is going to be around +2, and the blink is going to be a big good push. And that's going to be obviously trying to hit before any Broodlords or anything, and then he does have the blink to also back him up, just in case, as I did not see this Bane drop coming at all. 15 probes go down on the right-hand side, so it's a big Bane drop and a successful one to really slow Drogo's eco down that little bit.
Yeah, I think Drogo's moving out a little bit before he actually needed to move out, and the reason for that is that his hallucination died in Serral's main base, which means he did not see when the Hive started. But he see when the Spire was done, and usually you start Spire and Hive at the same time. So he probably thought that Broodlords were way closer. That's also why this, like, you need to hit this blink timing as the Broodlords are morphing pretty much. So he's forced to do that, even though the Greater Spire didn't even start, which would take over a minute from now, where the Broodlords would be ready. So if Drogo actually waits until he's completely maxed out, maybe sends a couple more zealots and maxed out on icons, I think he has a very good chance at making this work.
Yeah, he's going to go a bit too soon, and obviously Serral is maxed out himself on Ravager Bane, and that's scary. A lot of storms coming down, and that is going to be storms everywhere, and Serral just can't keep moving through that little corrosive pile of Ravager and the Oracle. As, ooh, I mean, Drogo goes forward again, and he's still got storms, but he loses some of the Archons that were getting low, and Drogo is just not going to stop. Goes up this ramp, wants to keep on fighting. I mean, he has got reinforcements, but the Prism is really far back at this stage as well, so even the reinforcements are taking a while to show up, and Serral's just maxed out again.
Look at this F2. All the units are the same. 2 War Prisms, Oracle, High Templars, and ground units running around together. Now, if that wasn't an F2, I don't know what is.
Drogo, another few Zards getting caught on the right side as Serral will not let anything slip by him. The Corruptor's now coming into play as they'll find the Prism, and that's going to be the Prism like, nope, let me get back to my army. Well, he might not care so much. He does have another Prism over there, but yeah, it's just going to be another drop or another run by, sorry, just shut down, and Serral not letting it get there. Now, this has stopped Serral from going into Greater Spire, but I don't think Serral's too bothered because it feels like the cleanups that are happening are fairly okay for him. Drogo's fighting. He's got so much money to spend. I mean, he could have so much more for this fight. And that's obviously going to be a little bit costly as the High Templars need to get their shots off, their storms off. Unfortunately, the Banelin's got on top of the Templar, so a lot of the Templar went down with some storms available.
Yeah, as long as Drogo keeps attacking, this not getting the Greater Spire is a good call because it costs resources and you don't really want to work Rulers anyways, and he just had basically enough units to clear up Drogo's army, and I think we're on our way here to a game 5.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. There just really isn't that much any more for Drogo, right? Like, he just has been dying out, and I think you're right. It's kind of like that lack of information, of just expectation of Broodlords. So he's like, I gotta go now, but you know, Serral hasn't even committed the resources into, you know, the Greater Spire or the Corruptors, and you know, this army that Drogo had would have just been way better had it been maxed out. Now he doesn't actually have this energy for storms yet, so he's going to try and pop the super battery to survive, but yeah, Serral's just going to wait for the rest of his Balins to show up, which start to come in right about now, and he's going to get ready to push into the rest of this. There's a few Banes actually just going to go and clean out the 3rd base mineral line. There's going to be a few on the 4th base, and Drogo is suddenly at 43 probes.
Yeah, I mean, Serral did exactly what the laser did on this map as well yesterday, which I talked about, is the anti-Drogo. I've used this myself as well in the past, where you just get a hive and a spire. You don't even get the extra gases for the Broodlords.
Yeah.
He will just A-click into your 4th base every single time. So all you need to do is get the maximum amount of Banelings and then, you know, accept the fact that he will attack into you, and then you should be in a good position.
I missed a little bit of this harassment that happened on this Rich Vespine base. It's very low HP. But
Yeah.
Serral is mining off of it, which means he's gone the 2 mega gases. Is this where his you know, everything he builds is just already a tech tier above what it should be? So,
Yeah, pretty much.
here you go. As a few Zards drop by over here, and that's just what Serral continues to go and clean up. I mean, he's maxed out again now, so shouldn't be waiting too long before he makes the big dive in to realistically go and hit all of these bases and try and blow all of this up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the first push it was pretty close. Drogo hit some good storms, but he needed to wait a little bit longer with it.
Yeah.
With the re-go empty. Went a bit over-eager, and at this point it's really just death animation. Of course, Serral, as we know him, he will just play it safe. If you're ahead, get further ahead. If your opponent's on 3 bases and you're on 6 bases with 2 rich gases,
yep,
you don't really need to attack, but I feel like you could, to be honest.
Yeah, Drogo actually did get in to kill this Hatcher at some point. I swear down, I must be just blind to units running out this base because I missed the initial units and the second units that went to kill it, but alas, I mean, even still, right? 5 bases going back up to it straight away, and Serral just continues to counterattack to make sure this will not be a base rebuild, and he's going to get extra gates and pylons. And Drogo knows he has to all in across the map, and he has to push, and so that's what Serral's just been waiting for. Lots of Banes ready to go, and just going to see them just running through this. The High Templars are going to go down. I think one escaped into prison, but it has no storm. That will do it to take us to Game 5 here between Serral and PtitDrogo.
Yeah, really.
Maybe not ideal. All right, anyways, let's go into the final map of this series as the momentum has switched heavily with our red Zerg winning the last 2 in a row and now gonna 12 pool. It's Serral.
And his opponent, who is going for a pylon scout, it is PtitDrogo.
So, very short map. I can understand the 12 pool. But is it not just super risky? Like, does this not just get shut down by the fact it is going to be scouted like this?
Yeah, so this is not the optimal scout because it loses a lot of minerals. The optimal scout would have been the gateway scout, what I earlier called out as a cack move, which I really do think is not optimal. This is the only thing that it's better against. But if you have the correct response as Protoss, you should end up slightly ahead. Always. But it's very easy to mess up. Yeah. And Drogo actually recently, I think he lost against Namshar, where he scouted the 12 pool and then he got really upset because he still lost. So I'm not sure how solid his defense is.
Well, he's going to pylon block and repylon block over here as he saw the drone initially. And across the map, he's going to go for the double gateway into the cyber core. This is going to be a full... Am I wrong? Is this not... Is that a gap between the 2 gateways? I guess so, right?
There is a gap.
This is like one of the things that's so hard to see sometimes on like certain positions of maps, and especially new maps as well, right? You need this to be the gap between the 2 gates because you need the Zealot to pop out straight into the gap, and you need it to be in a gap because you need it to still fight the Lings off, otherwise the Lings just sit there and kill your structures.
Yeah, I honestly think he messed up already because he was supply blocked a little bit for the second Zealot, and the first Zealot was too late because of the pylon on the other side. He didn't have the minerals to start it. And the cyber core is a little bit late, so there were like 3 very small mistakes here from Drogo that can cost you very, very quickly here. Now, yeah, I think he's just gonna lose the cyber core, which is already enough, honestly.
Yeah, massive delay on Warp Gate. He's gonna bring the Zealots out to try and fight. Well, now the Zealots are gonna get surrounded. This is just trying to make a bad situation work out, and that is not the way to do this, because now you're going to lose the Zealots and you're going to lose the Cyber Core, and then the Lings are going to potentially run up into the main, or you have to spend so many minerals to continue walling off. And so I was just like, cool, I'll see you later. That's an insanely delayed Nexus. Serral's already equal on workers, and his hatchery is finished, and that 12 pool will do enough.
That's honestly a sad end to the best of 5, because I mean, Drogo seems to just not have practice against this, because this is not how you're supposed to respond. You're supposed to start the Cybercore right away and then the Zealot right after. I feel like if he's blocking his opponent's natural and is delaying it that little bit, I mean, the Zerglings need to stay at home for a little bit, but I'm not sure if that's the correct call. Like, that was... I mean, obviously it's also a super short map, so it's a little bit tighter, but... he's not going to be happy with that. Obviously, there is still a chance this was a 12 pool. Serral actually went for the gasless version, where he doesn't have a gas, so he won't have speed for quite some time to take his third base. However, I don't think he feels too uncomfortable in this situation, because he did play this as a standard opener at the last state HomeStory Cup against Neep. Not of a 12 full, but just standard, going 2-base Hydra.
Yep. And he went 2-base Swarm Host as well.
Yeah, super weird stuff. And Drogo was actually going for a Twilight. Still, like these Twilight openers, the super delayed ones, they usually end up being really bad against 12. But let's see what Drogo can do with it. I assume that it's DTs. I think there's no way he makes Glaive works.
Glaives, right? Like, okay. Well, I'm kind of okay. He cancels into charge. Now I'm a bit more behind that because it's still weird, but it's weird enough that it might just be like, you know, crazy big charge all in. Maybe you can do something. But Glaives, it's like, in what world do you make anything happen with Glaives, right? Like, this is so going to be so delayed. You're delayed off your warp gate. You know, the Zerg is set up a bit better. Yes, no third hatchery is. We'll see. Serral just going to play the 2-base with the Roach Roaring and the Missile upgrade. Serral just scouting everything in the main. Obviously, he sees what's on the natural as well. So Serral has full info. He sees an upgrade in Twilight and a Robo. It may be difficult to call the charge, but the fact he's playing Roaches should typically just be straight up good against charge anyway. So, yeah, nothing that really catches Serral off guard here.
Yeah, like the thing is, he will make Roaches now no matter what, because otherwise he would just oversaturate himself. So any aggression really would fall flat on its face, which is I think exactly what's going to happen here. Now, he just warped in. Was it a second adept that he warped in?
He had a couple of adepts for
and
a while.
a sentry. Okay. So maybe it was just a sentry. I thought he warped in 2 units, but yeah. So he does clear the vision, but the Templar Archives is scouted, I believe. And
Yep, I've seen. He sees the Templar
Yeah.
Archives, he sees the extra gates, so you already kind of know a rough idea of what this is looking like, I suppose, at this stage. As Serral, as we see this prism, going to move into the main. 2 queens are quick to jump on that prism and put some damage out on it and turn it away through the top side.
I mean, in all honesty, I feel like this is the best case for Drogo. He basically didn't commit anything to any aggression, whereas Serral heavily over-defended. He made, what, 17 roaches overall with these 4 popping? Now, as long as Drogo actually manages to defend the 3rd Nexus somehow, this will be a game. The question is, can he defend those against roaches that have roach speed? There's no units, I feel like.
Yeah, he has 2 zealots, 2 zealots, 2 adepts, a stalker, a sentry, and now an immortal. And obviously he's just got 4 high templars, so he can morph in a couple archons, but they're not going to be here fast. And these roaches are already on the 3rd, so saving the actual 3rd base seems unlikely, especially because he needs the prison to come back over to get the archons out of here or so. And 3rd base goes down. Pylon as well. So now actually supply block Drogo until his extra pylons finish, and he'll chase these roaches, but again, they have speed, so they'll just kind of kite and get a couple shots off every now and again. You know, even turns, get some good damage onto these archons. He kills the archon. Was not expecting that. That just disappeared. Wow. That was, don't think Drogo was expecting to get 1 shot after the first volley went off as well. So he even loses another archon now, and it feels like Drogo's fallen apart a little bit as the zealots will continue to drop a couple more units, getting set up at the front and starting to push through. As Drogo will turn around with the rest of this. Couple of immortals fighting these roaches. A lot more damage being done. Keeping the hurt up.
Okay, I like that he's just chasing with the Warp Prism, because he kept losing Zealots for free. And the Immortals with the Warp Prism actually can trade with the Roaches for absolutely free. Like, there is no way you're going to lose an Immortal against Roaches. If they can blink into your Prism. But now I mean, you do need to still keep track of the enemy with the Warp Prism.
Yeah,
you
he
can't
went a bit
just go
too
to the
far.
other side.
Went a bit too far now. Serral is knocking down these rocks. Obviously, Serral does 55 drones and says, hey, you know, I see what I've killed this game. Let's see if you can somehow hold this off. There's a couple of force fields are good initially, but obviously then the corrosive bars break it down pretty quick as well. Nexus and the battery are going to be done soon, so super battery perhaps to try and be coming into the rescue, but there's already damage on the battery. It doesn't get to heal anything at all, and Drogo falls apart on the 3rd base as Serral makes it happen from 0-2 down. He'll win 3 in a row, and Serral is able to take himself to the round of 8 in 1st place.